Hi everyone, Liberty Doll here to bring you this week's Liberty Update. The election is now just over 2 weeks away, and so we are reaching the beginning of the end. It's like the universe knows it, so all kinds of crazy things are happening. Like the fact that a woman was arrested this week for drawing penises on cars with peanut butter after mistaking a meeting for a group of Trump supporters. She allegedly barged into the meeting yelling anti-Trump sentiments and was asked to leave. In anger, she smeared peanut butter on 30 vehicles outside the meeting. The meeting had nothing to do with politics and was actually a conservation group. That not weird enough? Madonna got on stage this week at Madison Square Garden and not only attempted stand-up comedy, but offered blowjobs to anyone who plans to vote for Hillary. Though it should be noted that this is not the first time Madonna has used sex to try to convince people to vote for Clinton, as in September she posted nude photos to social media along with a photoshopped image of Hillary standing in between her legs with the captions, "She's the best we've got," and "Living for Hillary." Meanwhile, a DNC tour bus took a literal shit in a storm drain in Georgia this week. Bystanders took photos of the bus dumping raw sewage in the middle of the street and into the drains. The police actually had to call in hazmat crews to clean up the spill. Witnesses complained of a foul smell and toilet paper covering the street. Even though witnesses saw someone get out of the bus and physically open the drain, the DNC calls the incident a, quote, honest mistake and promises to never do it ever again. They were also quick to point out that it wasn't Hillary's bus, but just a general run-of-the-mill DNC campaign bus. It gets better. A statue of a naked Hillary Clinton with cloven feet and a banker kissing her boob caused a full-out brawl in Manhattan on Tuesday. The statue was up for less than 3 hours before an enraged woman tore it down, other women joining her in a physical and verbal altercation with the artist, crying and telling bystanders, quote, "I shouldn't have to see this." The woman kicked and punched the sculpture, eventually sitting on it to prevent the artist from putting it back up. Then, New York's counterterrorism unit was called in and had the statue removed because the artist didn't have a permit for the demonstration. They called the counterterrorism unit over a statue. Similar statues of a nude Trump, all entitled "The Emperor Has No Balls," showed up around the country earlier this year, instead drawing mostly amused reactions from crowds, even in New York's Union Square. The statue was removed by the Parks and Rec Department, who released the statement, quote, "New York City Parks stands firmly against any unpermitted erection in city parks, no matter how small." New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan has spoken out against Clinton after WikiLeaks dumped emails between her campaign chairman and her communications director containing anti-Catholic remarks. The emails held assertions that conservatives were only Catholic to appease their rich friends, that Catholicism is a, quote, bastardization of the faith with backwards ideas, and the revelation that Podesta had attempted to launch a left-wing revolt against U.S. bishops to end what Podesta and company termed a, quote, Middle Ages dictatorship. Both Trump and Clinton attended a New York dinner for Catholic charities this week. The two candidates were sat at the same table, mostly ignored each other, and were separated only by the host of the dinner, who also happened to be Cardinal Timothy Dolan. The event is usually one in which political differences are to be set aside, but Trump took the stage and accused Clinton of being at the dinner while, quote, pretending not to hate Catholics. Dolan called his seat the iciest place on the planet. Kemper County, Mississippi also banned clowns this week with a county ordinance that will expire on November 1st. Anyone seen in public in a clown costume, mask, or face paint can be fined up to $150. County officials say the ordinance was passed in order to show people that dressing up in clown costumes is, quote, unacceptable at this time. In other bizarre and kind of creepy news of the week, Taser International held discussions with police officials this week to explore outfitting drones with stun guns for police use. Spokesman Steve Tuttle cited the recent use of a robot armed with explosives in Dallas as the inspiration for the weapon. But Tuttle also used the word autonomous to describe this new idea, suggesting that the drones would be self-driven rather than controlled by remote. The police chiefs in attendance were mostly concerned with the possible public backlash, though supporters suggested that armed and autonomous drones would reduce casualties in use of force situations. In the midst of over 1 million Americans getting ready to lose health coverage and millions more experiencing hikes in premiums due to insurers pulling out of the Obamacare market, Obama spoke in Florida this week and blamed Republicans, insurance companies, and employers for the problems with the law rather than the law itself. "I had nothing to do with that," he told listeners. He lamented that healthcare is complicated and that smaller state markets were suffering due to a lack of competition among private insurers, which he said could be fixed by creating more government plans because it's not like government chokes out private competition or destroys markets with overregulation or anything. Several states have already reported that they will see premium increases of 50% and higher across the board. Because government did that. The price increases are approved by state regulators, and the approved increases are actually higher than those requested by the insurance companies. Why? To try and keep insurance companies from leaving the exchanges, companies who are leaving after reporting multi-million-dollar losses. In Florida's pre-Obamacare days, the state had 18 insurance companies to choose from. Next year, Florida will have only 5. 6 major insurers will also be leaving the Arizona market in 2017, leaving most residents without a choice for insurance. In fact, only 1 county in the entire state will have 2 insurers to choose from. An average 40-year-old non-smoker in Arizona can now be expected to pay nearly $500 a month for insurance, while an average couple with 2 children is looking at $1,400 a month. Blue Cross of New Mexico is raising their rates by 83%, and Crystal Run in New York is raising premiums by 80%. Michigan, Minnesota, California, Oklahoma, and Tennessee are all reporting similar problems, and those are only the states that we know about so far. According to USA Today, only 8 states are expected to see increases under 10%, but some of those states haven't actually approved the new rates yet, and those numbers don't account for new plans entering the marketplace. Deductibles have gone up as well, with 41 states getting a hike in 2016. In Florida, the average deductible has increased by almost $1,000. Officials say the price and deductible hikes are because the plans were all originally underpriced. So you mean to tell me that every insurance company in the country was previously underpriced? The insurance companies claim the rate increases are because of the uncertainty of ever-changing regulations around healthcare, but Obama says he and Obamacare have nothing to do with that. Several states are in danger of having their healthcare markets completely collapse, and Minnesota has declared its healthcare system in a state of emergency, and Obama is blaming Republicans for not signing enough people up or working together to create better subsidies. Nationally, 84% of enrollees get subsidies, which have to come from somewhere, and in 2015, half of the people who had received subsidies were given the wrong subsidy and ended up owing money to the government. And this wasn't just a few bucks. The average bill was $800. In fact, according to a report by the Taser Family Foundation, only 4% of Americans received the correct subsidy. But, again, government has nothing to do with this. In Obama's speech, he compared the Affordable Care Act to exploding smartphones, saying if your phone has some bugs, you fix it, rather than repealing it completely. The reference was obviously to Samsung's Note 7, which was recalled and fixed, continued to catch fire, and then was discontinued completely. I mean, the thing is banned from airplanes. The company has recalled the entirety of Note 7s, admitting defeat, losing billions of dollars, and accepting that customers are going to have to choose from their competitors. So the metaphor is an actually accurate one, though not the way that Obama intended. Throughout the life of the ACA, Obama has been unable or perhaps unwilling to understand that his way is not the only way, and competitors, like the private market, may offer better alternatives. A new round of WikiLeaks emails are out this week, with one from Hillary Clinton herself, seemingly plotting the end of Obamacare back in 2015. In an email chain between her and her senior policy advisor titled Memo on Cadillac Tax for HRC, Hillary says, quote, "Given the politics now with bipartisan support, including Schumer, I'll support repeal with sense of the Senate that revenues would have to be found, but we have to be careful that the Republican version passes, which begins the unraveling of the ACA." The Cadillac tax is a 40% excise tax on all insurance plans valued at over $10,000 that was originally set to begin in 2018 but was delayed by Congress to start now in 2020. The tax is meant to be paid mostly by employers, but many economists warn that the tax would be passed on to enrollees. Several emails this week are once again raising questions on Hillary's health. One WikiLeaks email suggested Clinton could not speak without a podium as she needed the podium for actual physical support. Another email, not from WikiLeaks but obtained through a Freedom of Information request, suggested she had trouble walking around a stage and focusing in a crowd as early as 2009. A 2016 email from DNC Chair Donna Brazile laments at the sad state of Obama's economy. Quote, "I think people are more in despair about how things are. Yes, new jobs, but they are low-wage jobs," she admits in her email to campaign chair John Podesta just 1 month after the following tweet. "Under President Obama, the economy has experienced a record 70 straight months of private sector job growth, over 14 million jobs." Let me just take that back. Several left-wing groups are becoming increasingly disillusioned with Hillary and her campaign after emails revealed pure hatred for some prominent liberals, describing them with words like naive, pompous, smug, and radical. Emails called climate change activists freaks who need to get a life. A progressive nurses union was called high and mighty sanctimonious. Supporters of a $15 minimum wage were called the Red Army. Emails described Bernie Sanders as a doofus and dumb and called his supporters freaks as well. Combine this with Hillary's paid speeches to big banks on Wall Street that differ significantly from her public speeches, along with her statement that you need both a public and private position, and many left-wing causes are feeling pretty unhappy. In one email chain, Neera Tanden, president of the Center for American Progress, called her own employees crazy leftists. Groups like Greenpeace, the Center for Economic and Policy Research, and the Progressive Change Campaign Committee are responding not by denouncing Clinton, however, but by planning to protest her staff appointments if she wins the election. Maine has an interesting premise on the ballot this year. Question 5 is a ballot initiative that would institute ranked choice voting on both state and federal levels. Voters would not only get to place their vote for their preferred candidate, but rank the other candidates by preference as well. If the winner does not have a clear majority, the candidate with the least votes would be scratched from the list, and those ballots listing the losing candidate as first choice would then be recounted with their second choice, and so on, until a clear winner is found. There is no such state system currently in the U.S., though some cities have adopted it and Australia has utilized it with success. The system, of course, has flaws, just like any voting system, but widely favors third-party candidates who otherwise are unable to break through. Current polls show more support for the initiative than opposition, though 23% of Maine voters remain undecided. That concludes your Liberty-related news for the week. I fully expect the news to get more ridiculous and more violent as the elections creep closer, so stay tuned, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next week.